This is Curtis coming back at you again from Aceperhead Studios. We're going to go and talk about football again today, and we're going to see who's ruling the AFC East pre-draft. Who's got the edge as far as talent and team composition. Now, obviously, things can change come the draft, but we had a lot of heavy work done with the free agency, a lot of moves, so we can really assess kind of where each team stands because truth be told, draft is fun. Draft is like one of the most exciting times for a football fan. But really, very rarely does a draft turn a team that's okay into a superstar contending team. So it's kind of usually the draft is there to build for the future. Maybe you find an elite star that will affect your team. But usually it's just extra. It's the icing on the cake. The cake has already been put in together and built. So we're going to look through all four teams, kind of go over their rosters, see what they got and who's got the edge. First, I guess, really the truth is you got to start with the Bills. Despite 20 years of dominance by the Patriots, Brady's moved on. It was a down year. Got to take your hat off. I'm a Finn fan, as I told you before. Got to take your hat off to the Bills, man. They really dethroned the Bills fair and square. And so they're in the driver's seat. So let's take a look at the Bills roster and see what they got. Are the Bills still in charge? How do they do in the offseason? What do they have as far as a team goes? Well, they still look pretty good. Who really thought that Josh Allen would explode the way he did from 2019 to 2020? It's very rare to see a quarterback make that mega jump like that, from his second to third year, but he did it. Look at some of these stats. His quarterback rating from 2019 went up almost 20 points. He went from 20 touchdowns to 37 touchdowns through the air. He tacked on 1,500 extra yards between 19 and 20. And he tacked on 8 more TDs on the ground. So in 2020, he made up 45 touchdowns for the Bills offense. As an outsider looking in, I'm not a fan. Fans get to really see the inner workings. If you're a fan of the Bills, you really know the inner workings of what's going on. But from the outside looking in, Sean McDermott is an excellent coach, and it was McDermott and Allen leading the Bills to an amazing season. And from the outside looking in, it looked like they were the glue holding the team together. And as I go over the roster, I'm sort of impressed because, some of the additions they made and obviously some of the players, but I'm also a little surprised that there are some holes there. And so really McDermott's coaching, the discipline that he seems to have, that the team seems to really love him, play for him. And obviously Josh Allen is turning into a transcendent player. So this is the go juice for the Bills. So we're going to take a look at the roster again. Obviously Josh Allen is Josh Allen. Can he do better? Can he actually go beyond what we're seeing here? And I think it's quite possible. When you look at his physical talent, he puts nightmares on secondaries and on defenses with his scrambling alone. For the first 2 years, his throwing wasn't good. Sometimes it was ugly, but he still was a threat just by his legs. And now with his offensive talent around him and his arm and his growing accuracy, man, I'm very, very frightened to be in the AFC East. So obviously he's a piece. And, people make fun of Mitchell Trubisky, but he's your backup. What a great backup to have. So as far as the quarterback stable goes, by far, head and shoulders above the rest of the division. Both not just the starter, but the backup. Very impressive. Running back situation drops a little bit. Delvin Singletary, Zach Moss, they were competent runners, limited carries, but they averaged 4.3 and 4.4 yards per carry. So it's solid production. But I think when I go to, obviously, the most important part I keep saying over and over again is the offensive line. When you look at the interior of your offensive line, you Bills fans, you can see the interior is not great. Nothing much at center. You have Feliciano, who's a pretty good guard. But that interior offensive line is not strong enough. It doesn't have enough power, it appears, and talent to generate internal movement to get these players their yards. Great tackles. I mean, you have Deion Dawkins, 14th best. Darrell Williams, 21st best. That's a great bookends. And, they could be vying for best bookends in the division. The Patriots, they have some qualities, but they got injury issues. So you guys have very good edge protection, edge talent, okay inside. But I think that's one of the weaknesses I see of your team is center play is not good. And you really don't have much depth or starting talent on the interior. But that's something you could pick up. You have 3 first-round picks. I would be surprised if one of those picks wasn't on the interior. Maybe you could grab a veteran. There's so many veterans out there. Maybe a good veteran gets cut. But that's like one of the weaknesses. But I'd still say you got some good talent. I mean, maybe you're second or third in the division as far as offensive line talent. But really, your bread's being made now with your wide receiving core. Picking up of Emmanuel, who's the 45th best. Possession receiver, good guy. He's able to even stretch the field with his skill set. Stephon Diggs is just a beast. I mean, he can take it deep. He can take it short. I mean, this guy is top 5 best in the league. And then you add Cole Beasley, another good player. He's 17th best. You have 2 top 20 receivers with Sanders, who's just, he's an aging veteran, but he's still very talented. And on top of that, you got Gabriel Davis, who he was a rookie last year and showed something. So, even if he comes up, if he can bring his game up a little bit, that's still a pretty solid 4 deep wide receiver core. But what another weakness I see is your tight ends. The middle of the field is usually dominated by the interior line, be able to generate those inside runs, and then your tight end who's able to, work the inside of the field on those linebackers. And Dawson Knox, he's not bad at 45th best, but I could definitely see that. That's an area that you would upgrade in the draft, both the interior line and the tight end. Because honestly, with what the Patriots did, the rest of the league, or rest of the division, league probably too, but the division, it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be fun stopping it. And you're going to, it's easy yards. The security blanket for a quarterback is almost always the tight end. And so if you guys can upgrade your tight end situation, that's going to help Allen even be more. It's going to open up the exterior and the deep. So, but those are the 2 holes I saw on offense. But again, you have Josh Allen, just the fear of him, be able to design, run, or scramble when a pocket breaks down. This is going to help the missing pieces you have or the weaknesses you have. Still, I would say, even after all that, top first or second offense in the division. I would definitely have, before free agency, I would have said, obviously, you guys have the best. But Patriots made some real good moves. As Bills fans and the Dolphins fans and the Jet fans too, we should be a little concerned with that. Now on defense, and this is the thing, when the Fins played you guys, it felt like your defense was much better than the stats. And so I think this comes to like the way McDermott coaches. He's intelligence, obviously the offense, getting ahead, putting pressure on like that. That helps a ton. But you have some decent pieces in your secondary. Tre'Davious White and Levi Wallace are 31st and 34th best, respectively. Now, that's not great, but they're going to be in the game. They're going to keep you in the game. They're going to limit the big catches. And then when you look at your secondary, Jordan Poyer and Micah Howard, they're good. Micah Howard's 25th best, Poyer's 21st best. So they're preventing a lot of these deep plays and stretching out the drives, turning them more into field goals. And so while they're not deep, it's a good group to build around, to limit. And obviously, if you guys get ahead, which you often do, it puts the ball in their court because then they know the team's throwing and it helps them. But that's another piece I think you guys definitely need to find. cornerback. That probably might be your most highest need, and it's probably where you're going to go with your first round draft pick because they're so difficult to find, especially getting a cornerback as a rookie and then get him to be productive. That's sketchy. So it'll be interesting to see how you go with that. And then as you bring it to your middle linebackers, this was a disappointment. I really like Tremaine Edwards. He was a guy that I thought was going to have a big impact. But I learned a lot from him, and obviously Raekwon Millen, who we drafted. Physical talent, production in college, that's all well and good. But as a linebacker in the NFL, it comes down to smarts. And Tremaine Edwards was never known as, or Raekwon Millen, were never known as highly cerebral. And that weakness, that flaw, that kryptonite was, that it was, NFL offenses will make you think. And so he's been a very, very big disappointment. Now, I would like to know, I know he was injured a couple times. Is it injuries? But he's a 74th. His physical talent is off the charts. And he's the 74th ranked linebacker. So that's a little concerning, But Matt Milano's a good guy, good outside edge rusher, outside linebacker, a little bit small, like 221, but he's been productive, 41st best linebacker. But honestly, it's another area where you might need to bolster is that linebacker play. We got Jerry Hughes on the edge. Old man, he was drafted, 2010 or something? I remember him, as far as I can remember practically, still 18th best edge rusher. So you have Jerry Hughes bringing that pressure, which is essential, especially because we guys get ahead. So being able to bring pass rush up, that will offset some of your limitations. And AJ Espinoza, who I really liked him. Not bad, 69th. Showed something in run stop. He's not much of a pass rusher, but he's a good, solid edge. But it was his first year. So you could see some growth out of him. That would be good. That would give you guys solid edges. But here's another, it goes back to Tremaine Edwards and Ed Oliver. Ed Oliver and Tremaine Edwards were 2 first-round picks. Now, I'm a Dolphins fan. I know all about busts in your first round. But it hurts. It stings, man, because I think they say 75% of the time that first-round draft pick's supposed to hit. And Ed Oliver was disastrous last year in run stop. One of the worst in the league. Out of 100, he got 31 by PFF. So, his pass rush was solid. There's no doubt about that. That's a good thing. But can he pick that run stop up? And can you find anything out of Tremaine Edwards? Because, these two players, they're prime blue chips. And unfortunately, because this division is getting so tight, every miss is going to play out big. I was hoping the Patriots would collapse. And then, the Jets, they've been struggling, and maybe it would end up being the Bills versus the Dolphins. Dolphins had some misses, and there's some potential for some very big misses on them, and that's going to come back to sting. So, overall, you got A.J. Klein, good run stopper. But that defense, I expected to see more talent out of it, more production. They've been held together and given that advantage because of the offense. But in order to win that Super Bowl, and I hate the Bills. I'm a Dan Marino fan. You guys just taking it to us 4 years in a row, going to the Super Bowl and basically kicking us out every year. There's a hate in there. But still, Josh Allen is somebody who I really enjoy. Maybe I'm getting old and soft. I don't know. I like McDermott. I appreciate the Bills fans, sticking with their team for so long, up in the cold and everything. I wouldn't mind seeing you guys do well. I really wouldn't. But that's that defense. At some point, and because the defense is the easiest to maintain consistency in. Could have bad weather, could have snow, could have heavy rain. This throws the offense off. So teams that usually rely on heavy offense to get to the top, very few of them actually reach there. So it'll be very interesting to see what players can step forward on the Bills on defense. It will be interesting to see how they can do with the draft. They need a hit with that. You guys need a hit with that first round pick. Because, what was it? Edwards was drafted, 4 years ago or something like that? And then you have Ed Oliver, he was drafted. So in the last 4 years, 2 of your picks are kind of on the verge of bust. I think Oliver can pick it up. I think he can grow. I think he's got to put on some size, some strength. He'll work on his technique probably mostly. So I would say at the end of the day, I wouldn't even really be concerned with running back. Interior offensive line, some help at tight end, cornerback, and something on defense, maybe a linebacker or an interior lineman, something to help you guys because the Patriots are going to be physical. They have a team now that's set up to work the inside of the field, to control, just like in chess. Whoever controls those 4 squares in the middle of the board, they run the game. And that's what the Patriots are bringing it back. They're moving away. They can play high flyer too. But with what they're setting up, they're going to demand teams to be able to be physical on the offensive line and on the interior, and the defensive line to be physical in the interior. So there's a lot of question marks around the Bills, but I'd still say you have to give them the edge simply because your team has gotten better year after year. McDermott is shown to be I love Brian Flores. Still a little bit of an unknown commodity. Not much, but still a little bit. Obviously, Belichick is a known commodity, great genius all time, whatever you want to rain on him. But McDermott has shown something steady growth, and he's been at it for years now. And you have to say, at the very least, he is a legit good coach. Maybe verging on something a little bit more than that. So overall, I would be pretty content if I was a Bills fan, but I would be looking over my shoulder at the Patriots. This is going to be a big draft for you guys. I said it's not going to make or break you, but if you can get one high-impact player, or even one high-impact and one good player, there'll be a little breathing room for you guys. So that's it. That's the Bills pretty much as a fan of the Dolphins, as a guy looking at them, wrapping them up. Let me know what you think, Bills fans. I'd like to hear. This is the year that I've been focusing on, obviously, the Dolphins my entire life, but I've had to really focus on them writing for the Fins magazine. But now I'm going to have to branch out. Now I'm really trying to get to know the other teams. So let me know what you think. How did I assess your team? Am I wrong? Where am I right? What do you think? And let's move on to the hated, but you have to respect, New England Patriots. All right, now we're moving on to the Patriots. Can the Patriots reclaim the throne in the AFC East? Ding dong, the witch is not dead. Not dead. Oh, man. Dolphins fan here. I'm hurting. I'm hurting. I thought you guys were gone. We had the Bills. Bills rose up. I can see some one-on-one matchups with the Bills, but as much as it pains me, I have to tell the truth. The Patriots went against the grain, and on paper, I mean, it is all it is right now, is on paper, you guys did some great, great stuff. And just, watching you guys for 20 years, watching the Patriots 20 years, watching Bill Belichick for 20 years, he will surely miss Tom Brady. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. But, the move to take your team back to the beginning of your amazing run was brilliant. And the additions, yes, it was $200 million on day one and a bunch of additions afterwards. I mean, I haven't been able to assess the cap hit because of that. I mean, will the cap descend? Are they going to feel pain next year? I don't know. It's not like that's a little above my pay grade at this point because I have to do research on it. But as a Fins fan, as a football fan, I can just see the potential, and it's frightening. And I'm not saying you guys are going back to being, 16-0 or anything like that. That is not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is the Patriots made some amazing, brilliant, contrarian moves that really set you guys up to shock the division. And as much as I'd hope the Dolphins were going to take that second place and vie for the first, I'm very concerned because the Dolphins made some curious moves, and I don't know. You guys look to be second or first place. So let's take a look at your team. Obviously, Cam, 23rd. Cam's done. He stinks. I think I think that is way overhyped. The talent around him wasn't spectacular. Okay, he came into a new system. He came off a major injury. He had to deal with, like I said, lack of talent, and he still was the 23rd best quarterback. He accounted for 25% of your offense, I think, or your rushing attack with his legs. This is year 2. Cam Newton, there's a lot about his game I don't like, but he's a prideful man. And now he's got talent, and there's options. He's not going to be asked to carry. He's still a threat. He still has the ability to throw the ball. Actually, he's not a deep ball thrower as many people think he is. He's smart. He knows how to work the field. He knows how to work the interior of the field, those intermediate throws. And with what you guys built, the play action is going to be frightening. So let's take a look. Cam Newton, 23rd, that's going to rise. That's going up. Forget about 23rd. I could easily see him going to like 15. Or maybe even a little higher. Jared Stidham hasn't shown anything. So you guys are a little thin. When you look at the Bills, they got Josh Allen and Trubisky. Obviously, they have the highest level of talent at quarterback, and they have a very good backup. So to me, their quarterback position is the most stable and best in the division. But your guys, it's not terrible. Will Stidham grow? I don't know. Cam is certainly a known commodity, and he's certainly going to play better with the talent around him. So I would say right now you guys have the second best quarterback situation. Now then you add Damian Harris and Sony Michel. They didn't get They didn't get a ton of snaps last year, and so they were productive. They were very productive, But I wouldn't say your running back situation is great, but Damian Harris could be something. He showed a little something, so that'll be interesting. And then the thing that I loved Bill Belichick, right? And with the Giants. Then I loved him when he won the first Super Bowl with the Patriots. And then I grew to hate him. And I hated him. And I hated him. But at a certain point, genius and brilliance, you have no choice but to tip your hat. And I'm back to sort of loving him. But this was so brilliant. You guys have probably the best offensive line in the division. The only reason you don't is because of the injury history. But look at some of this. Ted Karras, starting Miami Dolphins center. Set your backup. 17th best center in the league last year. Dolphins, who do they have? Nobody right now. Bills, who do they have? Nobody. Jets, who do they have? Nobody. So the center position is going to determine a lot of the interior play. And you guys, the Patriots, are now forcing the situation of controlling the interior of the field. And that is power on an NFL level. So you guys have Andrews, the 14th best, and then your backup's the 17th best. So no matter what, you guys are going to be in a good situation. Then you have the two best guards in the division with, Shaq Mason's the easy one, but Onwenu. I just remember him because the guy was gigantic at 350. And I seen him move the Dolphins players. Okay, I've seen him. He's a giant. 9th best guard in the league, and Shaq Mason, the 6th best. So your interior 3 is controlling, and then you add Isaiah Wynn and Trent Brown. Isaiah Wynn's the 11th best tackle, injury history. you know. But when he's there, and it's so interesting because you guys had the giant tackles, and then you move to the small guy and doing great. Now, Trent Brown, too, is another quality player. Depth, not too bad, you know, some depth there. But overall, that offensive line is the best in the division. So, on top of that, then you acquired 2 phenomenal tight ends. I mean, singularly, they're not the best. Because you have Hunter Henry, who's the 24th best, and Jonnu Smith is the 12th best. Now, both of them obviously have talent. Both of them can play the X and the Y. They can play inline. They can spread out. But the fact that the 2 of them together with a phenomenal interior line, and then you have Devin Asiasi. Forgive me. My pronunciations suck. He's not great, but he's huge. So you can come out in 3 tight end sets. You have an extra lineman on top of this. So this physicality is going to have time of possession, which is going to help your defense, which is stacked too. It's going to help control the clock. It's going to take pressure off Cam Newton. He's not going to have to scramble as much. And then it's going to open up the play action, which is going to allow the deep ball and those long edge of the zones intermediate plays, which are killers. So you can come out just about any look you want. If a team comes out and they're bringing the nickel, they're screwed. If they're bringing a base package, you guys can just stretch one. You can Jonnu Smith. You can just move him out, play the third wide receiver, and it's going to be a quality situation. So offensively, I want to say the Bills have the best offense, and I still think they might because Josh Allen's a monster. He's an absolute monster. And if he gets pooped, who knows if he gets better. But from a schematic standpoint, from an offensive line, to me, the offensive line's critical. Now, I think a lot of the stuff will break down if you see that injury history crop up with you guys again. You know, if Isaiah Wynn goes down again, that's going to bring some trouble. You know, but I mean, across the board, and then you were talking about your wide receivers. You picked up a bunch of Kendrick Bourne, 53rd best. Aguilar, 46th best. Jacoby Myers, which you had, who's a big guy, dude. And then you have Edelman, who I think he's coming back. And then N'Keal Harry, who he hasn't done much, but you never know. They're slow to develop. So you have talent up and down the line. And people are sleeping on you. People are sleeping on Cam. But football is about the line of scrimmage. I don't care what anybody says. You look at all the teams that can stop the run and they can run the football. Look at last year. Last year. I mean, you had one of the best quarterbacks with the Chiefs, with Mahomes. No offensive line couldn't run the football. They were turned into nothing. And so I'm really impressed with what Belichick's doing. I hate it. I don't want to be third. You know, I'm very nervous because I think Belichick's very angry, and that haircut he got makes him even look scary. I kind of like him. The comb-over's gone, so now let's go to your this is just the offense. This is just the offense, which, I don't know. Let's go to the defense. Okay. You got Jonathan Jones, who's the 5th best cornerback. J.C. Jackson, who's the 29th. And Stephon Gilmore, who was ranked the 61st. But he was playing nicked up last year. Do you think he's going to be the 61st best cornerback? I mean, the year prior to that, he was elite. So even if he brings himself back to 90% or 80% of what he was in 2019, you're going to have a top 5 cornerback, top 30 quarterback, and then maybe a cornerback, and then another top 30 cornerback, maybe another top 20, maybe another top 10. I wouldn't put it past Gilmore. He's not too old. And I'm sure, too, he's a prideful guy. So who knows? And that's just then you look at your safeties. You got Jalen Mills, who was pulled in. He's a free agent quality. He does everything well. He's not great at anything. Perfect Belichickian type player. Then you got McCourty, who, he can cover. He's the 45th best, but still a quality player. Now, a very interesting guy is Kyle Duggar. If I was a Patriots fan, I'd be very excited. And if I was in the AFC East, I'd be a little concerned. He was only the 49th ranked safety in the league. But he was a rookie, and the guy is 6'2", 220. This is a great in-the-box safety and nickel linebacker. It's going to be very interesting to see if he can get past that, if he can grow past that, 49th range. He could use his brains, let that size really sink in. So for Pats fans, you got a very good secondary. It could be great if Gilmore steps up. And then you're blanketed by what could be a very good second safety group. So this is very, very concerning for me as a Fin fan and for basically the league. Then you look at your front seven. Quality pickups here, man. Chase Winovich, great pick. I thought the Dolphins were going to grab him. You snatched him. I think you guys snatched him. Great move. He's getting better and better. 34th ranked edge defender by PFF. And he's getting better and better. He really is showing himself. I think he can actually move beyond that this season, get into that 20 range, which is scary because Matthew Judon hasn't been great. 53rd ranked linebacker. But he has speed, intelligence, some good size, and Belichick's going to raise his gameplay up. So you could see him go back, maybe not to what he was in 2018 or whatever, but he's going to be effective. You can move him all over the place. Then Kyle Van Noy, you picked him up for like a song and a dance. With the Fins, he was an impact player. Not consistent, especially in the run game. He was a little off, but for what you guys got him with when you tie him into Winovich and Judon, and then you add Dante Hightower, who, he hasn't been the same guy since about 2018, but he's an effective player. So you add that, and then you guys picked up our old middle linebacker, Raekwon McMillan, who slow to diagnose, but he's got great short area attack speed and size. And so when you're two-gapping, and that gap is open, which you guys have a tendency to really keep that gap open, he shoots. He's good in between the tackles. So you have a quality group of players on the edge and inside at that edge linebacker position. Dietrich Wise, you re-signed, good player, 31st, solid. Devon Godchaux, you pulled from us, and Akeem Spence. Those guys, really good at one-gapping, shooting those gaps and playing. Godchaux is terrible at two-gap. Maybe he could pick it up, but he was really injured. So I don't know. I think he'll be a specialist. There's a good group you got there with Spence and Godchaux in that niche role of one-gap shooting. And then you have Anderson and Adams, who are the two-gap group. And you know how basically Belichick just loves to move pieces in and out. And so I really see that you've got so many pieces that Belichick's going to be able to create different scheme looks, different fronts, mix and match. So for really, honestly, I'm kind of nervous. There's a possibility that, hey, Gilmore isn't what he was. Maybe he gets worse. Maybe you get a couple little injuries here and there. But honestly speaking, I think there's a good chance that you're going to make the Bills very nervous or replace them. And from what I'm seeing from the Dolphins, I don't know if they've got the firepower. There was some mistakes in their team building. There's some nice moves, but some mistakes, question marks around Tua, their offensive line. There's just a lot of flux. I don't know if they're ready to really vie for the division. We'll take a look at them next. But if I was a Pats fan, I'd be sad to see Brady leave and see him win a Super Bowl. But all the talk about Cam being dead and Belichick being dead and the Pats being dead, forget it, dude. You're going to at least be respectable, at the bottom line, respectable this season. So at this point, I would say 1A is the Bills, 1B is the Patriots, depending on how the drafts go. And then I would just put basically the Fins vying Their draft is going to be huge. Jets, I just don't know if they have the firepower. Again, they're going to have a big draft, but the draft very rarely turns a team from a frog to a prince. So let's move on and check on the number 3 team on our list, the New York Jets. Next up is the Jets. Third on the list, we're going to go over the Jets. And the question is, how high can the Jets fly with a new pilot and a load of picks? Right off the bat, Donald's probably not going to be there. But what can you get for him? So who's going to be the quarterback? Who are they going to draft? Doesn't look like Watson's in play now. He's got 13 assault charges or sexual harassment charges. So he's out of the picture. So it's going to really come down. And honestly, the Jets should never have traded for him. That would be insane. So it looks like they're going to grab a quarterback at number 2 or, maybe even trade out. My personal opinion, I would keep Donald and draft a rookie and see if Donald can improve his stock with a real staff around him. I mean, because like I said, Finn Fan, Adam Gase is terrible. The guy's nuts. There's something wrong with him. And he's just not really a good coach. I don't understand. I don't understand how he became the Dolphins coach. I mean, I guess it was like the unknown factor. But then the Jets, you guys, strapped with them. So, who are you going to take with that pick? We don't know. So that's the whole unknown territory. Donald, he played poorly. But the good news for that is that your receivers, they actually made some hay despite really not having much to throw to them. So they picked up Corey Davis in free agency, which 10th best receiver in the league, and the guy is 6'3". So that's a very dangerous weapon for whoever's going to be quarterback, and that really helps out your cast. Jamison Crowder, 37th best, talented. I think he's better than that if he has a real quarterback to throw to him, or if Donald can get him his head right and get it together. Braxton Berrios, 50th best. Denzel Mims, 67th. But, he's interesting too. He's a young guy. Can he step it up? So then you're really lacking a little bit in the tight end department. You got Tyler Kroft, 220 pounds, 6'5". He had a decent season, but he's a vet. So I really don't see much growth out of him. A solid receiving group, that could definitely see their play rise with better quarterback play. Lacking the tight end department, but I don't think that's an essential piece for your team right now. The offensive line is some issues, and I think that's probably, if you don't want to have a Donald part 2, and whoever new quarterback or Donald and a new quarterback, or however you want to slice it, running for his life, you got to upgrade that offensive line. Mekhi Becton played far better than I thought at tackle. I thought he was certainly going to move inside. He played very well, but injuries limited him. So can he get over that? He's so big. He's gigantic. Can that body handle that kind of abuse? That will be interesting to see. Alex Lewis was a pretty good guard. I mean, he's the 26th best guard in the league, according to PFF. So that's a nice little piece inside. But you're lacking. You really don't have much at the other guard spot. You don't have much at center. And Chuma, he was drafted a couple of years ago. He's got a load of talent. He was very good in pass protection, but terrible in run blocking. So, you got Mekhi, who's a good run blocker. So Chuma could, just be your pass protection tackle, but he's got to get that run blocking game up or he's just a liability. So, the Jets' offensive line could be better. Chuma just can pick up his game a little bit. He could be that athletic tackle that takes on, the big speed rusher and stuff like that. So you could have something there. But I would still say offensive line is a major piece. And with all those picks, and that's the beauty of the Jets' position. They're not expected to do much. They don't have to do much. They got a load of picks this year. They got the extra first next year. And they're in prime position to get the second best quarterback in this draft. And tell you the truth, the Dolphins, they're where the Jets are going to be next year, but they've got that big question mark at quarterback. Did they find their quarterback? There's no clear-cut answer. They did or they didn't. And the problem is next year, at least unless they trade back, next year, they don't have those extra picks. The good news is the Jets, they're in prime position to get one of the top quarterbacks in a deep quarterback draft. They got loads of picks this year and extra first-round pick next year. So they're in a very good position as far as their offense, being able to take care of the quarterback position, because that's essential. Once you have the right quarterback, even if the regime that drafts him doesn't pan out, then at least you can hope the next regime can come and get it straight. But if you don't got that quarterback, then you're constantly chasing. Everybody's looking for that elite quarterback. So on defenses, the Jets definitely have a much stronger defense. They have some great, Marcus May, top 5 safety in the league. He just got the tag on him. You're going to have to do the extension next year. Every team kind of drafts certain positions well. And you guys had Jamal Adams and got rid of him to Seattle, which got a bunch of picks for, which was a wise move. But you guys have been doing very good at drafting the safeties. And, so you at least got a star on defense. And you just picked up Jared Davis, free agent from the Lions, and he hasn't been good. He's not a good player, right? At least in the scheme that he was asked to play, that 3-4 system. And that's very demanding on a smaller type linebacker. But now that he's coming into a 4-3, where there's going to probably be a 2 gap, they're going to be expected to keep the blockers off the linebackers. Maybe, you could see a renaissance for Jared Davis. I think it was worth rolling the dice. You got Quinnen Williams. You've got Fatukasi. He's 14th best. Quinnen Williams is 12th best. And you got Myers. He's the 35th best. Now, I can't pronounce his name, but I know when we played against you guys, that front of yours was excellent. We didn't have a really good run game, so it's not like I can say that you guys are elite or anything. But you have a lot of talent up front. You got Carl Lawson on the edge, and he had 5.5 sacks. He was 14th best. So, and I believe you guys picked up a new free agent, if I recall, on the inside. And on top of the talent that you guys got there, you just picked up Sheldon Rankins, who was, a very good player for the Saints inside. Hadn't been playing up to his draft potential, but still a talent inside. So you added him to a very nice interior line, solid edge, elite safety over the top. So with all your picks and Saleh now your new coach, who's he's a defensive-minded guy, and I think the transition to a 4-3 is going to be a little bit better for you guys. I think that you'll be able to get more out of that front. You'll probably get maybe 2 gap, maybe even single gap. You probably mix it up where these talented D linemen can start shooting the gap and trying to make plays. So, honestly, the Jets had the least amount of talent to work with. But considering the situation they are with the picks they have and the talent they have, there's opportunity there. There's a very, very good opportunity. They're just going to have to nail that second pick. Either they trade back and pick up a quarterback and back end. Next year there's not going to be a great quarterback draft. It's going to be very thin. So this is the year for them to either choose to rehabilitate Darnold or pick that quarterback. But honestly, I don't really see you guys rising past 3rd. Maybe you can vie with the Dolphins, and somehow the Dolphins can totally screw it up, make a bunch of mistakes, get injuries or whatever, and you can leapfrog them. My opinion is, though, I think you'll end up being 4th in the division, but I still think that's a good news for you guys. Nail that quarterback. Saleh proves he can be a head coach. Develop some players, make a couple of extra good picks with all those extra picks you have. I think you'll be in prime position. It could very well end up that Josh Allen's with the Bills. It could very well end up that Mac Jones goes to the Patriots. Could very well end up that Zach Wilson goes to you guys. And as much as it pains me, it could very well end up the Dolphins don't get what they want from Tua. I don't think he'll be a bust, but elite, I think there's a 50-50 in that. So it could end up that the Jets are in a prime position and the Dolphins who appear to be ahead, could find their way backwards. That might not be the case. Tua's working very hard, but it will be interesting. This is a very, very interesting division now. But speaking of the Dolphins, team close to my heart, I put them last because I didn't want to look like I was choosing favorites. Here we go, the Dolphins. Can the Miami Dolphins overturn the AFC East? So the Dolphins, I said I love them. Pay attention to them like you wouldn't believe. Watch tape on them, write for a magazine, all that stuff. They are either A, in a great position, or B, in a very, very dangerous position. Because honestly, it's all about Tua. It's all about, if the Dolphins do not invest a quality pick in another quarterback, this regime, as much as I love it, I wanted Flores to be the Dolphins coach before he was even named a possible candidate. A little bit that he's a New Yorker, I'm a New Yorker. But more than that, I just really liked his personality. I thought he was perfect for the Dolphins. And since then, he has made me do nothing but like him. I want him to succeed desperately. I want him to succeed more than Tua. I want the Dolphins to succeed more than Tua or Flores. But really, they made a gamble going for him with the 5th overall pick, which was fair. I mean, you can't really not go for it. I mean, you would like to have seen the Dolphins front office evaluate Herbert better. Dan Marino had his eyes on Herbert, but the front office went with Tua instead. Was that Ross saying we got to get him? I don't know, whatever the deal is. Now, Tua was coming off the major injury. I really wanted him to sit for 2 seasons, let Fitzpatrick get the reins last year and this year, but they brought him in under the pretense that he was giving the best chance to win. This isn't the case. Dolphins fans were desperate. We've been suffering for decades. Some of you fans out there have never seen a quality quarterback as a Miami Dolphin. And I beg to differ that Fitzpatrick was. And then there was Pennington for that short period. He was a good quarterback, but we haven't seen greatness, literal greatness. So you're desperate. You're desperate for wins. You're desperate for respectability. You're tired of promises that the season's going to go someplace and it just goes nowhere. So you're desperate. But the thing you have to remember is, just like Tim Tebow, and I'm not comparing the two, but the passion that people had for Tim Tebow was beyond him as a football player. The passion that people have for Tua, obviously as an all-time great college quarterback, for his throwing skills, but also for who the guy is. There's nothing to not like about this guy. Tua is the guy that you want to marry your daughter. He's the guy you'd want to put in charge of your business. This is the guy you'd want to hang out and be your friends with. All that stuff is true. Great kid, great human. But honestly, that injury was epic. He never had a strong arm in college. It was average to begin with. He made it by his mobility, his placement of the football, his completion percentage. But when you go back and watch the tape, you could say, oh, there was drops. That's true. You could say, oh, the offensive line wasn't great. Sort of not true. He was one of the least pressured quarterbacks in his time as a starter in the NFL last year. Dolphins' pass blocking was actually pretty good. Run blocking was terrible. But when you watch the velocity on his ball, it's terrible. Terrible. He has a hard time throwing outs. Sometimes the ball dies, it goes awry. If he does not get his velocity back to even close to where it is, he will never be more than an average quarterback. Now, that's all bad news. It's scary. Dolphins spent the 5th overall pick. They spent a 2nd round pick on Rosen, and that's a bust. Good news is you can see he's going to be a year removed. You can see he's not that soft look on his body. He's actually working out hard. You can see the muscle developing. You can see he's working on his technique. So there's great opportunity for him to improve, to be the quarterback he was expected to be the quarterback to lead the Dolphins to the championship, and all that is possible. But it's an unknown. So the Dolphins, they have done tremendous work on this team. For Flores and Greer to take this team from where it was, to take guys from nowhere and start slowly building a culture, a winning culture, bringing talent in. And yes, culture does matter. When people believe and people follow, that culture matters, as long as it's truly believed in. They've taken players like Gesicki, who was on the verge of being a bust, and turned him into something. Found guys like Gesicki and Sealer, and from all over the place, they've pulled in players. Now, some of their first-round picks from last year, they were misses. Jackson, he wasn't a hit. Igbo, you have to worry about him. Cornerback and tackle, those are very difficult positions. They could develop. But honestly, if they develop or they don't develop, it's not even in the same stratosphere as if Tua can recover and rebound and get his game prepared for the NFL and be who they need him to be. So really, the Dolphins, they're running out of their extra picks now. Maybe they'll trade back and they'll buy them some extra time. But next year, there's not going to be a deep draft for quarterbacks. So if they're going all in for Tua, they're going all in for Tua. Now, this could be great, could be problems. So, but I did like the addition of Jacoby Brissett. I thought that Fitzpatrick is a different kind of quarterback than Tua. He's more cerebral. He's more challenging of the receivers. With Brissett and Tua, they have a similar style, more athletic. They're a little more conservative. And there's good qualities to that. I think that if you can be conservative, in time, you can learn to be aggressive as the confidence grows. So I think this, Brissett is a good pickup. Cheap pickup. It's a downgrade from Fitzpatrick. So the Dolphins quarterback position, it could be great, but I think at the worst case scenario, it could be average, because if Brissett has to come in because of injuries, remember Tua had injury history, then it's not bad. I like their position. It's a more stable position than the Jets, but the Jets do have the opportunity to get a quarterback they really want. So again, it's all about Tua. I do believe there's plenty of opportunity for him to succeed, but you have to, if you're fair-minded, and you watched the tape last year, and you saw Fitzpatrick come in and do the same thing with the Tua hat and turn it into magic, barring all those the injury concerns, all that stuff, you still have to have some question marks. But beyond that, this is where the Dolphins really, I think, separated themselves. Guys like Myles Gaskin. So I read a lot of the blogs, and a lot of fans I don't think really respect what Gaskin brings to the table. He's a 26 overall ranked back in the NFL last year. His receiving, his pass blocking, and his running are excellent. If he had any kind of run blocking, Dolphins had one capable run block last year, and that was Robert Hunt. Other than that, it was almost ineptitude. And for him to achieve what he did, this is a great find. And Ahmed, excellent runner, amazing burst, who was able to make something out with very little. So these are two good pieces there. And I don't know. I mean, a lot of people want them to draft the running back this year, the big running. But I don't know if that's an essential. I don't know if that's a first or even second day pick, because both these guys are good. If you can pick up that offensive line play, they are fine. I really respect Gaskin. I mean, I think this guy, he's got that Napoleon Kaufman type where he can do both things, and he does it well. He really was a great security blanket, whether it was coming out of the backfield or running the ball, making things happen, cuts on a dime, explosion. And now he was found in the 6th or 7th round? Excellent pickup. Ahmed was pulled off the scrap heap. So the Dolphins, this is one of the Dolphins' strengths. And this is where I think as fans, we can really hang our hats on, is the ability for the Dolphins to find talent in the back end. Now, the receiving core, there's so much talent there. You're going to have to cut some quality players. Dolphins have Devontae Parker. Now, a lot of people making fun of Devontae Parker, but they weren't making fun of him last year, and they weren't making fun of him when Fitzpatrick was throwing to him. Tua has got to get on the same page with Parker. Parker is very talented. A little injury prone. He's going to miss a game or two each year. But his size, his ability to catch at the highest point and manipulate his body in the air, excellent. One of the tops in the league. He's going to produce. Then you got Albert Wilson coming back. he was really coming on in 2019. And he's the extra receiver. You got Jakeem Grant. Hands. You know, I love to see what he does on special teams. And sometimes he gets the ball in his hands and he does amazing stuff. But the lack of consistency, I think the lack of consistency can put Grant to the back of the pack where he might not even find himself with a job. I mean, maybe it's the special teams will do it. But then you get Preston Williams. So talented, but so injured. This is going to be the make or break for him. I mean, talent, I don't know. Allen Hurns. Allen Hurns is a consistent, tall, big player. He showed some great ability until Rosen led him into the middle to get blasted and messed his neck up, but he came back. Lynn Bowden Jr. He's not going anywhere. And I think he's going to actually he's going to bump, what's his name? The quarterback they drafted. Sorry, I can't remember his name. I'm getting old. Anyway, the quarterback they drafted last year, who they converted to wide receiver, can't remember his name. He's gone. There's no way he's going to last because Bowden Jr. can do it all. He can catch. He showed later in the season that he can catch routes, actual routes in the intermediate level. He can, catch small passes, short passes, swing passes. He can take the ball as a handoff, and he's like a pinball out there. As soon as he gets that ball, he's very, very difficult. So I think you're going to keep Parker. You're going to keep Bowden Jr. And then you picked up Will Fuller, the 9th best receiver in the league. People were screaming, and I think fans were screaming, fairly so. They weren't able to blow the top off the secondary. They didn't have the speed. They should have had it with Grant, but it wasn't there to drive that secondary back to open up the underneath. But Will Fuller's going to do it with that 4.3 40 speed and 16.6 yards per catch. You have it. You have the big guy in Parker who can dominate physically. He can make the tough catch. Red zone nightmare with Gesicki, who, his chemistry started to grow with Tua, but him and Fitzpatrick were on fire there for a while. So you have Gesicki, who's just, another like a Parker, but inside, big guy, physical, can make the high point catch, the tough catch, the red zone guy. And then you got Fuller who can take it deep, and then Bowden Jr. underneath with maybe Albert. So, and then, Shaheen came on and showed some good looks. And Durham Smythe, I thought he was gone. But he showed that lunch pail type ability to block, to make some big catches. So, really, the Finns got a very good receiving core. Now, and a very good tight end group. I don't know, but they could be vying for the Patriots and the Bills as far as skill level talent. Problem is the pass catcher, the passer. What kind of ability are you going to have from your quarterback? Tua at some points looked great. Other points he was off. So if Tua should have no excuses this year, the only fair excuse that he will have, the injury history is past. He's had time to develop. He'll have preseason. The only real excuse he would have is if this offensive line underperforms. And right now, this is my biggest concern. The Dolphins, they've spent a lot on this offensive line. They were looking to get Andrews. They missed. So right now they picked up Matt Skura from the Ravens, who has never been anything. And he's had fumble issues. So at most he's a backup unless some miracle happens. So you either have Dieter, who's too weak to play guard, too weak and too small to play guard. He's going to have to be center, but is he a starter? And then, they try Jesse Davis out at center. Right now, the center is a major, major, major hole on the Dolphins. Could they use a pick? Should they use a pick? I would say possibly, possibly. But then you look at the rest of the offensive line. Solomon Kinley started out great. I did a video on him. I really love the way him and Hunt worked together. But the problem was Kinley's got these short Tyrannosaurus Rex arms. He's got a great base, very physical. I like the way he pulled. Very physical, ultra physical. but his arms, his hand play was off. He constantly got swimmed, and he ran into problems, and he ran into injuries, and he then ended up playing as the 70th worst, or 70th best guard in the NFL, and that won't cut it. He was picked in the 4th round, so you have to expect it's going to take him some time. Will he be ready this year? And then after Kinley, Eric Flowers. Eric Flowers was a good pickup. 32nd in the league. He got a pretty solid contract. Not good at the run game, which is a little concerning because he's so big, and he's paired up next to Austin. And Austin didn't play well, but we all know he's a boy. He is a boy. He's going to be a boy for at least another year or two. And that strength is essential to play that position. He did good against the athletic edge rushers. He was able to pick that up, but he wasn't a good run blocker. So you have 2 poor run blockers next to each other. And those RPOs that Tua really favors, you got to get some run game going, or else it's really going to put a lot of weight onto. And that's like the one excuse I can see for Tua. No run game. He needs a run game. In college, he had a run game. The RPOs demand. The defense respects the run game. So, and then you look on the other side, Hunt played pretty well. Hunt was one of the Finns' best picks. That was in the 2nd round. He ended up being the 52nd best tackle in the NFL, which is not bad for a rookie playing on the right side. He had some footwork issues. He had some mental issues where he missed his swaps and stuff. But overall, he was a very, very, very promising player. And then, Jesse Davis. Jesse Davis, he just doesn't have that. I was one of the first. I did videos, wrote articles about Jesse Davis in his first preseason game. I was one of the first on the bandwagon. Still believe in Jesse Davis. He's got all the tools, but he lacks one thing, and that's a physical nature. And it hurts him. He's a nice guy. He's the guy that, you want to invite to a party, you want to hang out with, but he doesn't have that killer instinct. Quality play, you can swing him along the line. You probably could even put him at center and you'd be all right. He's a good swing man, and he's a good second option. And I think that because of his veteran nature, he's a decent option at guard or even tackle. But it's not long-term. It's not long-term success, especially because the run blocking, again, is one of his weaknesses. There's no one on the offensive line that can really run block at this point except for Hunt. So the Dolphins have invested they have so much invested right now. They have a first, a second. They spent a first on Tunsil, sent him out, got picks back. They've invested so much and really have very little returns. This is the year we need to see returns. And truthfully, with 5 picks in the first 3 rounds, one of them might have to be spent inside. One of them might have to be spent on this offensive line. Now, the good news is, there's plenty more good news, the defense. Brian Flores, great coach. I mean, for him to take what he has, to do what he does, and to get this defense to be top 5 was phenomenal. And you got to expect this to happen, to occur again, because there were some very good moves last year and some very good moves this year. The only concern I have is that Howard had, almost a dozen picks, and that really helped this team out, this defense out last year. Can he achieve that again? Our team's just going to go away from him and go to Byron Jones. So, but they have plenty of ammo. They made some good moves. You've got Byron Jones, obviously. A lot of people a little unhappy with the amount he received. But when you watch his play, he was a couple of picks that he could have had. He was in the area. There was some good passes. I still like Byron Jones. I think Byron Jones is a good cornerback for us. I think he's worth the money. I think you can see him step up and be a little bit better this year. Obviously, Xavier Howard is elite. He was always a ball hawk. But last year, his coverage became much tighter. He became a much better cover defender. And you have to believe that a lot of it had to do with his knee. I mean, he had a very exotic procedure done on his knee in order to get him rehabilitated. His knees are a disaster. He's had knee problems right out of college. In training camp, he missed tons of time. And honestly, I didn't think he was going to, I wasn't sure if he was going to come back. It was horrific to see how poorly he played in 2019. But to see him come back in 2020 and play like he did with that amazing procedure, he is absolutely an elite player. The question is, though, he's had off-field problems. He had another one with a shooting at the house and the police showed up. And then he might possibly be demanding a ton more money. He might want a raise after just getting a raise. And now the cap's sinking. I haven't heard much of it, so maybe he's backed off that. But, you have two excellent outside players. Then the Dolphins picked up Justin Coleman. And now he was terrible with the Lions. 111th as a nickel corner. But when he was with Seattle, he was one of the tops in the league. I mean, in Flores, I trust. And if he's got his eyes on him, he sees something that he can get this guy back to who he's supposed to be. So that's nice. You got Nick Needham and you got Igbo. I mean, his family's like Olympic level athletes. And he was thrown to the Wolves last year. You have to believe that he's going to get himself together. He was raw. Everyone knew he was raw. He was raw. Jackson was raw. So these guys now have had that first year. It could be a real strength. I mean, if Coleman can kind of get close to who he was with Seattle, and Igbognamini, that's why I say Igbo. It's too tough for me, to my New York accent. If he can take his game up, you have Needham, which was pretty good, but he plays good for a while, and then when it really comes to the big games, he kind of falls off. But he's a nice player to have. Now, you could have his very solid secondary. Bobby McCain is not a big play guy. He's not going to make the interception. He's not going to make the tackles. He's going to try to make the tackle, but he's a small guy. But he is a great quarterback in the secondary. He's in the right position. And then Eric Rowe, who really stepped up his game, big physical. He showed he could. He got beat by some of the top tight ends in the league, but other than that, excellent player. And Brandon Jones showed so much. So the Dolphins really, they've got a very solid secondary that Flores can move in and out. And you have to believe that it can match up with these high-powered offenses of the AFC East, with the Jets, with the Bills, and the Patriots. My concern is the Patriots with that two tight end look. But thankfully, one of the biggest moves that I see that's really not that talked about is McKinney, getting McKinney from the Texans for basically a song and dance. Now, McKinney's had some injury problems. He had his shoulder was operated on last year. And for a big physical middle linebacker, that could be scary. But 2 years ago, he was, and you watch the tape on him, he's brilliant. He's got a high IQ, great leader, huge. He's able to take on tackles. He's not fast. He runs like a 4.6 40. But because he's so smart, you can see time and time again, he's calling out the play before the snap. He'll be able to play that zone coverage. He'll be able to get that underneath player that basically Raekwon McMillan didn't have the speed or the brains to get there. And Baker too. He had the speed, but not necessarily the brains. But his ability to play to run, to take on the tackle, to make those tackles, and to basically put the opposing offense, off schedule so that second and third down situations are a little bit longer and make it more difficult. And then for him to, if he has to on first or second down, if it's a first down run, to be in the zone, he's going to help this defense tremendously. Miami has lacked middle linebacker play for a while. So I really like what they have there. And then Jerome Baker, he's more like a will linebacker, nickel linebacker. I like his play, just not in the middle. He doesn't have really much instincts and high IQ. He's got speed and he's physical. Then they got Brennan Scarlett, who I didn't really know much about. He's huge. He kind of can mimic McKinney, 263, but he was ranked 20. He was actually ranked very high by PFF for his coverage skills, which I thought was very impressive. So I think they've improved the linebacker position. I'd still like to see them find another linebacker, but really up front is where the Dolphins shine, I think, on defense. But I still believe they need to add more talent there. But Zach Sealer, I was on him like white on rice. And he's proved to be a phenomenal player. A little out of control, but he can play all the way from 0 to 5 technique. And then you have Raekwon Davis, who, again, I wrote about how his position was a modern type nose tackle. And that 0 and 1 position technique over the center or shading off, or even sometimes right in front of the two right off from the guard, he dominates. He literally makes people look like children. And so he is a phenomenal player. And then Wilkins, he pops, but so far he hasn't warranted that first-round pick just yet. But I believe this year he's going to really take off. Then Andrew Van Ginkel, what an amazing pickup late in the 6th round. 12th best edge defender in the NFL, and he showed it. And the amazing part is that one of his weaknesses was the cerebral part of it. He had spoke about that. So this is something that he can grow in. So we might not have seen the best of Van Ginkel. We pulled back Vincent Beagle, who I loved, and pairing him up with Van Ginkel is going to be phenomenal. And then obviously you have Agba, who was a fantastic free agent. Pressure all day long, you started to learn to play to run at the end. It was able to absorb 2 blockers to really free up everybody else. So the Dolphins defense looks like it can hang. It looks like it could be dangerous. And there's one player that I think a lot of Fin fans might have missed. And I thought Jonathan Ledbetter, he was brought on by the Fins in 2019, had an excellent first half of week 1 in 2019 and a great preseason. But he got injured and it looked like he was cut, disappeared. But the Dolphins have stuck with him now for over a year and a half of him being injured and being rehabilitated. And he's on the squad. And I loved his play. As a 3-4 D end run stopper, he was looking like a real find. So it'll be very interesting. I would say, Fin fans, keep your eye on Ledbetter. He could be a dark horse for us this year. But overall, it's going to come back to the offense. Can the Fins get the offensive line going? Can they get the run game going? And really, it's all about Tua. What are the Dolphins going to do? Are they going to roll everything into Tua? Or are they going to try to hedge their bets? Are they going to trade back and pick up picks? So when you put it all together, you have to believe the Dolphins are going to be in that 3rd spot. I just have to believe that. And I have to believe they're going to be vying for that 2nd spot. Now, who is that going to be? And I don't know. I want to believe they can go for the 1st. I want to believe that they can rise. And really, again, it all comes down to it. So the AFC East is going to be phenomenal. It's going to be so exciting. Obviously, if you're a fan of one of these teams and you don't achieve the goals that you have, is going to be disappointing. But when you step back and you look at it, you look at all the talent. The AFC East is returning to be that real ferocious division that whoever comes out of there is going to be one tough hombre. So AFC East is going to be very, very exciting. I'd like to know what you think about it, though. These are all my opinions, and they're just really what they are. Especially from you Fin fans. I would like to hear. I hope you don't hate me for what I'm saying about Tua, because I love the guy. But whether you're a Bills fan, Jets fan, Dolphin fan, Patriot fan, let me know what you think. I want to know, because honestly, for me, this is not some kind of ego trip where I'm a guru. That's not my gig. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to talk sports, trying to learn, and it's fun. It's the beauty of sports, is you don't know everything, and you get to learn, and you see what's going on. So look down in the comments below. I'm going to check to see what you guys say. And get ready for one exciting season in the AFC East. And now, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed what you've seen, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time. This is Curtis at Ace Per Head Studios. Thank you for taking the time for watching. Be well. See you next time.